So today I'm going to show you how to cook a really delicious one-pan roast chicken that you can pretty much cook in any kitchen as long as it's got an oven. Now, as you can probably tell, I'm not in my normal kitchen, so let's see how this goes. So we're in Melbourne for a really special project, shooting a really special project. More on that to come in the future. And me and the whole team have had a massive day. We're all really hungry and we're kind of sick of eating out. So we went to the markets and we got this stuff and we're gonna chuck it in the oven and see how it happens. Now, first things first, make sure you check your oven for temperature. Now, I know this oven is running hot because I put my hand in it. I can tell that it's hotter than it normally would. Now, if you don't have good muscle memory of that stuff, I don't know what to tell you. No, seriously, if you use your oven at home, you'll have a rough idea. You should know whether that's running hot or not. So I've actually only got that set to 150 degrees and we'll see how that pans out. So for the one tray, we've got some carrots, some potatoes, some sweet peppers, a bit of thyme. I got some fennel pollen. This is like pretty bougie stuff, but will be delicious on this. Salt and pepper and olive oil. We're simply gonna put this all on a tray, season it, shove it in the oven. Then I'll show you how to carve the chicken and I'll show you how to make a really simple pan sauce from the dripping. So these we're gonna keep whole, sprinkle them around. Before we do anything else, we're actually gonna oil this chicken and season it well. So you can just use olive oil for this because it's not like going into a pan. Be relatively generous with the oil. And then using one hand for the chicken, one hand for your seasoning. We'll put that on after, but we've got our salt ready here. Make sure you get the undersides and definitely make sure you get this leg here because that's a big piece of meat that you want salt on. All over. Then I'm gonna wash my hands and we'll get some pepper on there. All right, some pepper. Realize I've made a mistake because I want to shove some of this in the cavity. No, I gotta wash my hands again. All right, so next we've got these little baby salad potatoes because they're gonna cook nice and quick. The carrots will get around as well. Season it all up and get it in the oven. Now you want your oven set to about 180. The potatoes are probably gonna take the longest, to be honest. And we'll just keep an eye on these little peppers because they might get a bit charred, and as soon as they start looking like they're cooked, we can just pull them out and continue to cook everything else. In an ideal world, probably have a bit of a bigger tray. But this isn't ideal world cooking. Good drizzle of olive oil over all your veggies. And I kind of like how these capsicums or these little peppers have been hidden by the other veggies because they will be the fastest to cook. Nice good sprinkle of salt. And then this thyme, this is like really young thyme because the stems aren't woody. Just gonna run a knife through it and we'll sprinkle that over all the veg. Probably won't get the skin of the chicken with this if we can avoid it. So, fennel pollen. It is, as it says in the tin, it's literally the pollen of the fennel and it's got a really super strong aniseed flavor. It's absolutely delicious, but it's a pretty delicate herb, so we're not gonna put this on at this stage. We're gonna put this on after the end. We've got all our veggies nice and roasted and we'll toss it through and it'll give it a super nice aniseed flavor. But it's time to get this in the oven. So I've got the rack set down pretty low. I can feel, honestly, that feels like it's about, I don't know, 180, maybe 200 degrees, and it's only set to 140. And as always, I only talk about temperatures in Celsius. I'm sorry to all my North American friends. So in that goes on the bottom of the tray with the crown in at the front. We're gonna check on that in about 10 minutes because we'll know pretty quickly if I've got that temperature right. All right. So we're getting some good color on the spuds already, which is probably a bit premature, but that's all right. And these carrots aren't quite ready, but those capsicums are. I might pull those out because they got a nice color and they're nicely cooked. I do have chef fingers, so I wouldn't suggest doing this with your hands. These are hot. All right, we'll just spread everything else out. And then once we're ready to serve, we can just heat the stuff back up. Back they go. Now it's worth noting, I wouldn't normally pull my roasts in and out of the oven. It's just because this oven is at a crazy temperature. These carrots are nice and cooked and these potatoes are getting some good color as well. I'm just getting concerned that they're gonna get too much color, but we'll keep an eye on them. The other thing is I don't have a probe. I can't actually check the temperature of this chicken. So I'm gonna have to use my intuition, go back to me the old school days when no one really used probes that much. Anyway, potatoes are getting there. Let's get this back in the oven. All right, we're at 45 minutes and we're pretty close. So our spuds are definitely done. Chicken's got a little bit longer, which is fine. So we're gonna pull these spuds off, continue to cook the chicken. I reckon maybe another 10, and then we'll make a gravy and we'll carve the chicken. All right, back in the oven, 10 more minutes. All right, so pretty much 60 minutes on the dot. Just so we don't completely destroy our fingers, we're just gonna let this chill for 5 minutes before we move this bird off and then use the tray to make a delicious pan sauce. All right, so we're gonna move this bird over. Now there's gonna be a lot of liquid in the cavity. So we kind of wanna keep that liquid. Just tip the bird up, and that'll also help our sauce to be super rich and delicious. Onto the plate to rest. Now for the gravy, we've got a pot that we're gonna pour off all those nice juices and any of the chicken fat. And then we're gonna use that fat in there to make a roux to thicken some stock that I've got. But all this fond here, we wanna get all this stuff off if I don't eat it all first. So back to the stove, and we're gonna put a bit of heat under that pan. We've got a bit of heat back in that pan, and we're just gonna put some of our chicken stock on there. Just be careful with this pan, is gonna warp a little bit. And we don't need all the stock on there, just enough so that we can scrape all this stuff off. So now I've got all that fond off the bottom of the pan. You can push that to one side and go back to our pan. So we're gonna heat that fat up, and then we're gonna whisk in a couple of tablespoons of flour. Now we're gonna cook that flour out for about 1 to 2 minutes so we don't get like a raw flour flavor in there. Then we're gonna add the juice from our pan and then the rest of our stock. So very carefully, we're gonna pour all this pan juice in. Now don't forget, this isn't like a restaurant jus. This is homemade gravy. So it doesn't matter that there's a few little lumpy bits in there. Let that simmer away like that for 10 minutes. While we're getting everything else ready, and we'll finish that with a bit of chopped fresh tarragon. Oh, yum. So next we're gonna carve this, but while we're carving this, we're gonna get these veggies back in the oven so that they're nice and hot. So we're gonna carve our chicken. Paper towel and fold it. This will stop a mess on your floor. So we're gonna nick through the skin here and here. And then we're gonna pull this chicken up again. Now you don't want heaps of liquid to come out here because that means you've probably overcooked it a bit or haven't rested it long enough. But you don't really want that pool of deliciousness on your board because we wanna put that in our gravy. So first up, we're gonna take the legs off. So you're gonna run your knife down the side of the breast carcass, and then you're gonna find where the joint comes in, and you're just gonna push it. Then you're gonna see that thigh bone should just come straight out of the joint. Once you've seen the bone come out of the joint, run your blade down. There's the leg. Flip around, do the same on the other side. And there's the other leg. So put this aside, we're just gonna split those legs in half so you get the drumstick and the thigh. At this point, run your knife down till you get to that joint and knife through. So there you go, you got a drumstick and you got a thigh. Onto the crown. Find the center and go just off center and run your blade down there. Peel that back, then run your blade down the wishbone, getting all that meat. And then similar to the legs, you're gonna see a joint just in here, and that's the wing joint. We're gonna run our blade right through it. And there we have the breast, which is still attached to the wing. Now you can leave that whole if you want. I usually cut this into 3. So slice straight through. This is all meat, this part. Then we're just gonna repeat the same on the other side. All right, these guys are getting hungry, so I better hurry up. I've got some chives here. So we're just gonna finely slice them, and we'll put those over the spuds. This stuff's all optional, but I really do think that herbs take a good meal and make it a great one. So spuds are hot again. Just chuck them in a bowl so that we can toss them. Toss some chives on those. And an honorable mention to the incredible crockery we're dealing with this week. And then these carrots and little sweet peppers, we're gonna season with some of this fennel pollen. It's pretty potent stuff. Don't need heaps of it, but it really adds a nice aniseed flavor. I'm actually gonna put some on the chicken too, because why not? Nice amount of tarragon here, which we'll just put through the gravy. Got to have lots of gravy. Make sure that tarragon's in there. And there you go, a delicious roast meal. I used 1 pot, 1 pan, a chopping board, and some crockery. An oven is an incredible piece of equipment that you can do so much with. This is gonna feed the 3 of us really well for dinner and probably some of my breakfast as well. And it's super easy, so give this a crack. And a roast is not a roast without lashings of delicious gravy. Oh, yum. Yeah, that fennel pollen really brings it to life. So if you're in a holiday house or you're traveling for work, it is pretty easy to pull together delicious food without equipment that you're used to using. But just make sure you check temperature, because cooking is all about the control of temperature. Thanks for watching, legends. Subscribe if you're not. Like this video if you took anything from it, and we'll see you next week where we're back in our normal kitchen for another recipe. Peace.